Hot stove conversations about baseball, history, football, and current events that may leave you saying there's more to consider. Now here's your host, Jack Moore.
Welcome again to More to Consider. I have on Rob Fredette today. We did a show recently. Rob and I did a show on the Kennedy assassination. And we found out, as we do in this podcasting world, we had a lot of other things in common. I'm from Virginia. For whatever reason, as a little guy, I loved Carl Yastrzemski. And then people are like, wait, from Boston? Why are you a Red Sox fan? I'm like, I don't know. For whatever reason, I love the Redskins in Washington, but I loved Yas. Rob, you grew up 22 miles, you say, from Boston, correct?
That's correct. In North Andover, Massachusetts. It's a quick drive. When I look back, I still remember going to games as growing up, and it's one of my fondest memories.
So now, give me a time frame. When was your first game in Fenway, you think, thereabouts?
1981. So I remember seeing the Oakland A's there. Sat in the grandstand, won like the second to last or last row. I've sat about everywhere at Fenway Park except for the Green Monster seats. I've left Massachusetts years ago, but I have not sat in the Green Monster seats. But I remember going to see games with the Indians when they were really, really bad in the early 80s.
Yes.
And I also remember seeing the Yankees play as well at Fenway Park when the Red Sox were okay in the 80s before they got to the 86 World Series. But countless games went to. I have the greatest memories going to those games, and I love the white uniforms. They're just awesome.
You know, I've talked to people about that. It's partly old man thing, but the Red Sox and Yankees, now the Red Sox, like everybody in the 70s went through, as fashion went bad anyway. Everybody's going to the waistband of the colors. Everybody's wearing that. The Yankees never did that. The Yankees kept the belts, but they still went polyester and it looked bad. So the Red Sox go through their bad period, red caps and all the rest. They're in the World Series in 75 in that. But then they go back to the belts and the white pants and the Red Sox and the Old English, in the lettering as we have here. But I think Yankees, Red Sox, and their road uniforms. In fact, the Sox were always BOS, TON, Navy number on the back, gray. And then they went to some color. They put the name on the back, which they didn't do with the home uniform. But yeah, I think the Red Sox rock it. The cap you have on is the best baseball cap, to me, in baseball. Yankees is hard to beat too, but that's the history of the game that we all respect and love. So 1981. So I'll tell you a little story. You'll appreciate this. I'm in Florida a few years ago with a baseball buddy of mine, and a group of guys come in that are doing a national organization. They're getting ready to travel, and they stop there in Florida. The guy that runs the indoor facility, 6 years in the big leagues, Dominican guy, beautiful guy there in Florida. My buddy played at Norfolk State, and actually he's from New York. He's from Brooklyn, but he grew up in Virginia. So I'm down there with some really good people, and me being, I'm going to be the coach guy. I go around, I'm like, hey, Jack Moore, nice to meet you. And Tamari Story Hard, who played in the Dodgers organization, is my brother now, and I love this guy. So we're really close friends. Tamari's there. He's like 6'7", played first base in the Dodgers organization. And I'm working the room, and then I'm up close to this guy, and I swear to you, my mind goes, I know this person. And I'm like, Jack Moore, pleased to meet you. And he goes, Reggie Smith, really pleased to meet you too. And I went, oh my God, it's Reggie Smith. So I worked the rest of the room, and now I'm fanboying, right? So I come over, and I'm like, sir, I got to tell you, I loved you as a kid. Oh, I really appreciate hearing that. Well, Gary Lavelle, a close friend of mine, pitched with him 1 year in San Francisco. And I thought, well, Gary Lavelle's got, how's Gary doing? Love Gary. Gary's a great guy. Come back, tell Gary I saw Reggie Smith. But I asked him, I said, man, you came up at what, 1920? Yep, came up really young. He's on the 67 Miracle Dream Team, Impossible Dream Team. And I asked him the question, and this is one of the dark sides of baseball. I said, what do you remember about Conigliaro being hit? He goes, Jack, I was in the on-deck circle. And I was like, oh, wow. He goes, yeah, I was standing right there. He goes, you know what? In all my time in baseball, I never saw a guy get hit and the ball went nowhere. Now, I've looked at the film, and the ball doesn't go far. It's like it hit him, and it went straight to the ground. And he said, last rites were administered, I think, a couple of times. We thought he was dead. He goes, I've never seen a guy get hit like that. And, of course, as a Red Sox fan, we recognize he's a local guy. And Tony Conigliaro might have been that guy that he's got more home runs at 21 than anyone in history. Mm-hmm. He comes on the scene. he's in that great season. Of course, with the eye injury and some other health issues, his career just completely gets stopped. But I met Reggie Smith, and I got Yastrzemski's autograph once. I'm putting this out on the internet, but this was pretty crazy. I have 3 kids in the Red Sox organization I've worked with. Pick a year. It's like '08, I think. So I go down, I see Dewey, I see Dwight Evans, got 24. He looks great. He's 50-some. He looks like he could play right then. I see Tommy Harper. Jim Rice shows up, and there's a guy with white hair down on the AAA field. And the guy down on the AAA field, he's got white hair, nothing on. No name, no number, no nothing. So I come back up. There's 3 kids in minor league ball that I know. One grew up with me at Virginia Beach. One pitched at Clemson. The other guy pitched at Carolina. So I'm just down there. I've done some player rep, but these were just kids I knew. So I'm down there, standing around, ball gets fouled off. It lands, it's pristine, it's sitting there. And this guy's walking along with his kids, 7 and 9 probably. And I'm like, hey, sir, here's the ball. You want to get some autographs? He's got the Sharpie hanging. He's got the kids. And then he goes, oh, sir, I really appreciate that. You got a son playing? I'm like, no. I know some kids that are playing here. They're in pro ball, and I just came down to see them. So it's the AA field, AAA field, single A, high A, low A. So all the satellite fields. And he goes, hey, isn't that cool that Yastrzemski's down there on the other field? And I went, wait a minute. The guy with the white hair? Yeah, that's Yaz. And I'm like, oh, I guess that is, isn't it? He goes, hey, here's your ball back. Here's his Sharpie. Go get his autograph. And I swear to you, I'm thinking, no way. Like, how am I going to get his autograph? So I walk down, and on those satellite fields, you don't have – they're just chain link fences with dugouts. Yeah. All of a sudden, this guy shows up with like a 12-year-old kid, and Yaz knows him. So he leaves from behind the batting cage and heads right over, and it's right out of Seinfeld, the soup Nazi. All these people, zombie-like, start walking towards him. And I get in line, and I've got the ball in the Sharpie. And this person's like, hi, Mr. Yastrzemski. God damn it! And he starts signing it. So when I get to him, I'm like, hi, Mr. Yastrzemski. You were my favorite player. And he goes, God, son of a, and he signs it. But he's like pissed. And I'm like, wow, okay. So he hands me the ball. I get out of there. The next person has an 8x10 glossy they could probably sell. And he leaves. He walks away. So he leaves like 4 other people. So at the end of the day, the kid from Clemson that pitched, I see him. He goes, I'm going to shower. We're going to meet the wife at Chili's or something. We're going to go in town. So we go to dinner, and it's like the spit take. I was like, hey, I got Yaz's autograph. And he's like, he goes, what? And I go, yeah, I got Yaz's autograph. He goes, dude, when we came to spring training, we were told, don't look at Mr. Yastrzemski. Don't.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so he said, if Yaz talks to the player about hitting, back off, leave him alone. So I think the directive was pretty much, but God love him. I got his autograph, but I'll just say, definitely the environment. Like, I saw Evans talk to everybody. Dwight Evans, and everybody loved Dwight. I think everybody loved Yaz, but he did seem to be very businesslike on the field. And the fact that I walked up and got his autograph, to me, to this day, I can't believe it. Because when the guy said, here's the ball and the Sharpie, I'm like, why would he sign something? And then when I saw the opportunity, it worked out. Do you have a lot of nice memorabilia that you've collected through the years?
I do have some. I have a Mo Vaughn autographed baseball. Good story about that. I was working in Miami in the mid-'90s at Pro Player Stadium, and one of the guys I worked with was a bouncer at a bar during the spring training of the Red Sox, and he was working at, one of the strip clubs, and got Mo Vaughn's autograph, so he got me the ball. I have another one. When I was working at WHDH Radio in Boston, this was 1988 or 89, when Roger Clemens was there. He came into the sports talk show I was working at. It was the Sports Huddle with Eddie Endelman. Mm-hmm. And it was on Sunday nights, and Jim McCarthy and Mark Wicken were on, and Roger Clemens was a guest. So at that time, that's when the players were starting to charge for autographs. And so there was a radio station on the other side, WBOS, and one of the guys was the husband of one of the DJs there of the station. And he brought like 10 baseball cards of Roger Clemens in. Really cool. So at the end of the interview, there was a few of us in the room there, and we asked, can you sign the card? And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. He could not have been nicer. Someone asked, you're not going to charge us, but I have it in a nice glass case for over, 35 years. It's not authenticated, but I have it. The fact that he signed it, he could not have been nicer. So, I was fanboy then, so I have to admit, those are the two instances I have autographs. But yeah, it's pretty cool when you get those autographs of the players. Other Red Sox memorabilia, I have Celtics memorabilia, but those are the two Red Sox ones. I have all the Red Sox caps from like the World Series. This is the 2004 cap with the emblem on the side. So I still have that, still fits good. But yeah, my fondest memories of the Red Sox, the old ticket stubs I have too, from when I went back, of like the games were like, what, $7.50 tickets?
Sure.
They were so cheap back then. So I have that as memorabilia. And I also have some unused tickets that I've never went to the games. And I have those as well. So I'm not getting rid of those.
Now, you're younger than I am. And of course, I don't greatly remember the 67 World Series. I kind of, like I said, grew to love Yastrzemski coming out of that. My first real memory of the Red Sox was probably more early 70s, 71, 72, 73 time frame. So when they make the World Series in 75, what I distinctly remember as a Red Sox fan, and it still hurts to this day, I'm going to tell you what, having Rice and Fred Lynn come up at the same time is a huge lightning strike. And the fact you had Dwight Evans right before that, I think the summer before that, to have three outfielders enter your organization. You have Cecil Fielder and Cecil Cooper, and you have George Scott on the way back in 78, but you've got Yaz, and Juan Beniquez was a good player, and Miller that played some center field. They were so deep in outfielders. And, I thought Rick Burleson was one of the better shortstops at the time. Rico Petrocelli, he's on his way out. And second base was kind of, they went from Doyle to Remy. But my point is, with Fisk behind the plate, in 75 when they lose it, if you go back and look, the Red Sox scored 30 runs in 7 games. The Reds scored 29. But you have to win, 4 games and not 3. Could have gone either way. If you're objective. And the Reds was probably one of the greatest lineups we'll ever see in history. You got Rose, Morgan, Bench, Perez, all in the same order. I think Concepcion was one of the greatest players of his era, shortstop. So it's a great series. Boston was never really known for pitching. Tiant had a special series. But where I'm going is, at the point I thought, man, they're going to be good for 10 years. It's going to be a run.
Yeah.
And then 76, not so good. 77. There's kind of some issues. 78, of course, we know the Bucky Dent home run. So we know, I still remember 86. I've gone to a college to work, and I'm coaching baseball, and I'm at this school, and I met a Red Sox fan out in this, the college square after the game 6. And I remember the kid was like a walking zombie. He's a Red Sox fan. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And he was like, did we just lose that game? Were we just like one strike away? I mean, did that just happen? And to address one major point of that, I saw Bill Buckner at a hot stove dinner several years ago. I know he's passed away, I think 3 years ago, something like that. And it was so sad because he's a borderline Hall of Fame player. He's pretty close. He had a great career, a lot of longevity, a lot of hits, always a high batting average. And he has to open this talk with, well, let me just get right to it. I missed the ground ball, blah, blah, blah. And I asked people, what was the score when he missed the ground ball? And they're like, oh, it was a 17-run error, right? I mean, when he makes the error, and I was like, no, the score was already tied. Bob Stanley had just thrown the wild pitch that had tied the game, and Schiraldi couldn't get out of the inning after getting the first 2 guys out. And I've seen Schiraldi say, I always felt bad because Buckner took all the heat, and I didn't get the 3rd out, so Stanley comes in, bless his heart, you know how it finished. And I always thought it was unfair because if Buckner makes the play and can still beat Mookie Wilson to the bag, we don't know what happens the next inning. The Red Sox have blown a lead. They're demoralized. Maybe they not ever. Now, is it true when the ground ball reaches right field, the game is over? Yes. But I never looked at it as being fair to say that Buckner lost the game. There's a lot of events that occurred before that. And I just felt bad that a guy with his career had to spend the rest of his life kind of quasi-apologizing for a moment on the field when he shouldn't have been out there in the first place. Many have said, Dave Stapleton came in to play defense at the end of all the games. And I think it was that McNamara wanted him on the field when they made the last out. So through somewhat of a sentimental type of let's leave Buckner on the field, he's there to be exposed on the ground ball. What were your feelings on the Buckner thing?
Well, I was devastated. I was at the University of Maryland, and I lived with two New Yorkers who were my roommates, and Game 6 was utter horror. And when the Red Sox lost Game 7, I pretty much was demoralized for about a week. The one thing I remember about the Buckner play, it just happened so fast. And I can still remember Vince Gullison and Ray Knight going in with his arms up in the air. And that, you can't really, I mean, Bill Buckner, unfortunate it happened. He probably lived with it. But I love the fact that the Red Sox, I forget what year it was, but they actually had him come out and throw the first pitch.
I think it was 05 after they finally won it in 04.
Yeah. And I think that really closed the door on that, because Red Sox fans are very, very forgiving. And I think that closed the book. And when I still see that on YouTube, I just think it's awesome. When you look at the 86 World Series, I mean, the Red Sox, they were in both games. They were in, I mean, that Game 6, and to even come back in Game 7 the way they did. And it's, even though they lost, you know, they were up 3-0 in the second inning. And they had that fight, but the Mets scored 3 in the 6th, 3 in the 7th, and 2 in the 8th. So the Red Sox had that fight. I mean, every game is its own chapter. I always say that, but they scored 3 in that second inning, and it was horrible. It was utter devastation.
So if you grew up in the era I did, of course I wasn't around in 46, but for the people that live with the 46 World Series, were very cognizant of the 67 World Series, 75, 78 Bucky Dent game. To have this happen, there was a window of people that were at an age where they may have seen it all. And to not make it to 2004, plenty of those people, if they were around for 46, they might not have been around for 04. I will say, and of course this is an asinine thing to put out on the internet, but I'm not kidding you. When they played the way they did in Game 4 of the series with the Yankees, I had this funny feeling like, you know, that group of guys, if anybody's going to come down from 03 and do this, it might be them. So Millar, you've seen the film. It's very famous. I think it's, what is it? Shaughnessy with the New England press. He's like, hey, don't let us win tonight. You know, this was the Game 4. But if we win tonight and we come back with Schilling and Petey and we're going to win this. And they're like, yeah, of course you are. And he goes, no. Like, seriously, don't let us win tonight. Because if we win tonight, and the way he was saying, he's like, all right, the pitching's going to line up and, you know, can Schilling and Pedro do it? And I started thinking like, man, they believe this. So I'm sure you've seen like the 4 Days of October or whatever it is, the little documentary series they did on it. I was talking to a fan the other day in a setting like this. And I said, I think about big moments like, what if Bledsoe never gets hurt? We don't know who Tom Brady is possibly. So we could get into that too. But I said, what if Dave Roberts trips, falls, doesn't steal the bag? Because remember, his run was the tying run, and then Ortiz came through late. And, well, in the discussion we were in, I have a statistician buddy that says all this idea that fans have of clutch is not real. That everything that happens in sports is random samples. Some guys get hot. I'm like, I don't care what you tell me. David Ortiz is the most clutch human being that ever played the game.
He is the most clutch.
Yeah, I don't care what you say because I saw it. You know, I'm like, you know, and you look at this in 2013 when they beat the Cardinals. I think what the team hit 150 and he hit 650. Completely carried him. So I'm a big Ortiz fan. Totally. I got a Dominican buddy that went to high school with him, and you know he knows. Seems like all the Santo Domingo guys, I know they all know each other, but him and Ortiz are tight. And I remember seeing a thing on Ortiz where he got released from the Twins. The person I was talking to wasn't aware of this. He got released from the Twins. Pedro calls, hey, brother, how you doing? He goes, not so good. I don't have a job. Hey, give me 20 minutes. And that's when he talked to Red Sox into bringing him to spring training. And the rest is history. He was a non-roster invitee, and he made the team.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. But the Twins kind of got down on him, whatever that story was. But I heard, Peter Gammons said it was Williams, it was Yaz, It's been some guys, but the guy now the most loved is Ortiz because he got him the rings.
Yeah. And the thing about the 2004 season, I mean, they had to come back from losing Game 7 against the Yankees in 2003.
Absolutely.
Just the how I don't even know how to explain it. Just the fortitude just to come back in 2004 and do what they did. And when you look at the series against the Yankees, games 4 and 5 went into extra innings. Game 4 in the 12th and Game 5 in the 14th.
Right.
And
right.
it's, I mean, and like you mentioned, Dave Roberts. If he, I mean, that you watch that slide 100 times, that is like so close. It's a
Bang,
game
bang.
of inches.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Bang. Absolutely. Well, in that documentary, they got a camera crew. They don't know what's going to happen, but they got a camera crew there that's following the team. And, you know, I made the comment, I've known some kids that have played for Terry Francona. I hear that Francona, it was, you know, his first rounder. His dad played in the big leagues. He's a baseball guy. Like he's in on the hot foots. He's kind of a clubhouse guy because he was a player. And you see in this camera crew that's in the dugout, he looks at Roberts. He goes, "Hey, if Millar gets on, you're going to steal me a bag. You ready?" Yeah. All right, tighten up the shoes. Let's go. And it's just like that. And Dave's like, I got you. Yeah, you need a bag stolen. So Millar walks. Mariano Rivera is on the mound, walks Kevin Millar. Boom. He's in. Now he has to steal the bag. He has to get off first base.
And everybody knows he's going to steal.
And everybody knows it. Exactly. And that's what I say. Trips, falls, stumbles. He's out. The Red Sox probably don't have. I mean, they might have come back, maybe, but I think it was 8th inning, right, when the run scored to tie the game. And it's beautiful stuff. I got a buddy I had on today talking hidden. There was an indoor facility where Manny Ramirez found him online and started coming up. So I find out from my friend. I'm like, "Dude, you're holding out on me?" And he's like, No. He goes, you know, Manny's coming to hit here in North Carolina. So I go down there. He's like, "Well, he's here tonight if you want to come." And I'm like, "Okay, what's this going to be like?" He was hysterical. He was a lot of fun. And for the people, that was me and Manny.
Oh, that is sweet.
Yeah, it was 2 days of that. We were in the building, and he was on his way to Japan. So he finds out about my buddy. So, you know, I'm fanboy. Well, I mean, we hit it off. He's a neat guy. But I said to him, "How tight are you and Ortiz?" "Oh, yeah, I talk to him all the time. They're really tight." But well, you know, they still stay in touch. But now he grows up in New York. You know, he's Dominican, but like 13, 14, he moves to New York and grows up there. But I remember seeing something in one of those stretches. In 07, he's the MVP of the World Series. They were the greatest 3-4 combination of destruction offensively since and only Ruth and Garrick. Like it, you know. Like,
yeah.
They were that good. And I think people forget just what they did. They won 2 together and they go on to win some others. And so now you think of the person, this is what really strikes me in coaching now, athletes. Kids are born after 9/11 that are playing.
Yeah.
So all they know is kind of Red Sox success. That other backside of the 20th century, they don't have any, you know, what do you mean y'all were a losing team? You've won 4 World Series, you know. And so it has changed the dynamics. And it's different to be a Red Sox fan.
Yeah. Well, if you've never experienced the devastation of losing Bucky Dent or 1975 or 1986 and 2004 it's surreal when you look at it because the Red Sox had to go to Yankee Stadium and win games 6 and 7.
That is correct.
That's not an easy task.
No.
And I think as each game went on, the pressure was definitely on the Yankees. You could see like Game 7, they were tight. And then when Johnny Damon hit those 2 home runs in Game 7, it was like when Joe Buck said, Johnny Damon's going off. And you knew the series was amazing. Well, but I remember, too, about 2004 real quick is they had the Keep the Faith signs in Boston, you know, when they were down. And I remember that with the signage there. And it was just everything was loose, like Kevin Millar, you had said. I think that when you look back at it now, I still find it hard to believe they beat the Yankees when you look back.
Well, you know, as a coach, I think one thing we do, especially at the college level, if the team is loose and plays poorly, you weren't focused enough. You should have been spitting nails and eating baseballs, and you should have been, because that's kind of after the fact. What's interesting though, and I know it's the major league level, but what's interesting is in that little documentary series they do, David Ortiz comes into the clubhouse down 0-3. They're playing Latin music heavy. He's dancing around in the clubhouse. All the guys are loose. Everybody's got a dip in. They're spitting in a cup. They're playing cards. And they asked Terry Francona, what are you going to do down 0-3? And he goes, they're guys. I like my guys. I think my guys are going to. Aren't you nervous? Did you have a team talk? Did you go in there? And he goes, they're men. They know what to do. They're going to play. And after the first one, what do you think now? He goes, it's what we are. They win the next one. What do you think? And he's kind of like, I told you. They're guys. They're going to do what they're going to do. And I think it's true that as hard as it is for the fan to accept, when they were down 3, this is what they knew. We win tonight, we get to play tomorrow. We win again, we get. And I think that's literally what happens at that level. And let's face it, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're multimillionaires generally. They got a pretty good life, right? And I think that they were a loose group. And again, at that level, guys have told me that have played at that level, you don't have clubhouse meetings, rarely. You just play. You show up, you do your thing. But they were definitely a loose group. They were. Yeah.
I'm looking at the lineup here just to like Gabe Kapler, David Ortiz, Johnny Damon, Manny Ramirez, Bill Miller, Pokey Reese, who they got in a trade, Mark Bellhorn. Who could forget Mark Bellhorn?
Yeah.
Kevin Millar and Jason Varitek. I mean, that was a killer lineup. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Trot Nixon is a North Carolina guy. And I remember people talking about him before the draft. And now Trot was around in 04 too, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
he was on
right.
the team.
Yeah, he was part of the 04 team and 07. Yeah. And, I was always happy to see him do well because he's next state over, and I always heard great things about him. And he's first rounder and was a great player. He was a great player. And, the Red Sox had that really nice run. And it did change the dynamic because, let's see, Yankees have won one World Series in the 21st century.
2009. 2009, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, right. So it's been a better century. But it's funny, Ortiz did the really funny thing where he walked around New York trying to get hugs from Yankees fans. You remember that? That whole, yeah. So I do think that as you get older is one of the beauties. Like growing up a Washington Redskin fan, I hated Tom Landry and the Cowboys. And then after Landry's death, you go, he was a fine man. He was a fighter pilot in World War II when he was 20 years old. Tom Landry was a man that did really great things. Roger Staubach. How the hell do you not like Roger Staubach?
Yeah, Naval Academy.
Right. So after a while, you grow up and go, hey, the beauty of the Redskin-Cowboy rivalry was that they were the two different teams. So through the years, I don't know that I've ever respected or loved a player from afar as a fan than Mariano Rivera. Like, what a class act. I mean, he's wonderful. And the fact he got booed in 05 by Yankees fans after that series, I'm like, man, you cannot. One thing, Yankees fans, listen, you can't boo Mariano Rivera.
No, not him. Not at all.
No, you can't.
When you look back at it, and you mentioned David Ortiz, ESPN Sports Center had like a promo where they had David Ortiz, Jorge Posada, and few ESPN broadcasters, and he had the Yankees hat, and he was trying to show them how to put the Yankees hat. So Ortiz puts the Yankees hat on, and he looks outside, and Wally, the mascot's walking by, and he goes, Wally.
That is a beautiful. I know exactly the one you're talking about, and for fans
Wally, it's not what you think.
Yeah. So fans that are watching this that aren't obsessed with the team as we are, the wall is 37 feet high. So they have a mascot that is a big green blob of something that has 37 on a Red Sox jersey, and he's Wally for the wall. Yeah, and so Ortiz, I think Posada says something like, I'm a catcher. I never break my cap in right. And Ortiz like, I'll get it, and he starts to do, like you say, the breaking in, and here comes Wally. And he sees Ortiz wearing a Yankees cap, and he looks all dejected. Yeah.
He goes, Wally, it's not what you think.
So ESPN did a lot of really good stuff then.
Yeah.
They did one where Josh Hamilton's at the coffee machine with the ESPN guy, and the Mets baseball mascot comes through. And he looks at Hamilton and looks miffed and walks away. And Hamilton's like, what did I do? And he goes, some of those balls you hit in the home run hitting contest? He goes, yeah. He goes, they were his cousins. That's a great line. He goes, yeah, they were his cousins.
They did come out with some really nice commercials, but the Red Sox-Yankees one, and I wonder if they had to get permission for David Ortiz to wear that Yankees hat because somebody may have taken it very seriously.
Well, there's a famous film of DiMaggio wearing, because back then when they were on the road, the Yankees-Red Sox uniforms were almost identical. It was this gray uniform. So there was a time that there's a film of DiMaggio in Boston with his gray Yankees pants. He throws a Red Sox jersey on and a cap, and it was as a joke. Yeah, so he's warming up and playing catch with Boston in a Boston cap, and it got all over the media. There was talk that because he's hitting into that 460 Grand Canyon in Yankee Stadium, and Ted Williams is pulling the ball down pesky pole, but he's got a shorter wall, there was talk that they'd switch teams. I think that was actually a thing. What if DiMaggio hit in Boston, and what if Ted Williams hit in Yankee Stadium? It wasn't ever going to happen, but it was an interesting trade rumor.
Wow, that is unbelievable. When you think about Red Sox history, you got to think about Ted Williams. In my opinion, one of the top 5 all-time players. I mean, he could have easily had 700 home runs if he had not, fought in 2 wars, 5 years.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't realize, he won 2 Triple Crowns. I thought it was just 1, but he won 2.
I'm going to tell you, there's a guy that put something together on YouTube. Now, let me back up and say this. In 1986, when I was coaching college baseball, I was at a hot stove dinner, and I heard Bobby Richardson speak at that, who's one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met. I was at Lewisburg College, and there was a young lady there that was the daughter of Enos Slaughter. And she's like, I want you to meet my dad. So Enos Slaughter's 75 at the time. He's just made it to the Hall of Fame. And then Williams gets up to speak. And Williams gets up, and the first thing out of his mouth is, young man, one day you're going to tell your grandchildren you saw Ted Williams. And he was tall, lean, and good looking. And that's how he opened. So he's telling stories and talking about playing. But what was that I took in as an historian that I thought was so special is, in his talk, Williams goes, I'd like to recognize one of the greatest competitors I ever saw in the game, Enos Slaughter. And Slaughter gets up, like, choked up. Ted, and, he gives him the salute. And I went, that's Ted Williams and Enos Slaughter, like, recognizing each other in the room, right? So I read the Lee Montville. I was talking about this the other day on a podcast. I read the biography of Williams. And what's really sad, and this guy was unaware of this, the people that are there as Williams is dying. He's been through 3 wives. There was a woman that stuck it out all the time for him that was kind of his caretaker in the end. He dies at, I think, 82-ish. And the 3 guys that never leave his side is Bobby Doerr, Johnny Pesky, and Dom DiMaggio. So he and Dom DiMaggio were really close. And now I know Bobby Doerr and DiMaggio grew up in California. I think it was Bobby Doerr that said Ted Williams was really the first of the latchkey kids. He's born in 1918, but his mom was big in the Salvation Army, was never home. His father, I think, was a traveling salesman, was gone a lot. So he was left to his own devices. So I believe it was Bobby Doerr would go to his house. They all grew up in the California in the Pacific Coast League. They were playing there when 18, 19 years old, getting signed to major league clubs. And I remember Bob Costas was interviewing him one time, and he goes, you are the guy that John Wayne played. And Williams goes, hey, son of a bitch, yeah, I guess so, whatever. He goes, no, I mean, like, you were a fighter pilot, a Marine, and you're the best player in baseball, you're the best hitter. You're Hollywood handsome. You're marrying models. You're John Wayne. And he's like, yeah, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. But it's a sad story when you read really a lot of the anger he had from his youth towards the press. What turned him off about the press is after like one of his rookie season was insane, 145 RBIs. And he had this great, there's no Rookie of the Year award yet, but he's clearly that guy. Then the local papers write, he goes fishing, and he was a world-class fisherman. He goes fishing, he's 21 years old or whatever. And somebody writes like, yeah, what kind of kid is this? He didn't go home to see his mom for the winter break. And that sets him off. It's none of your business. It just, you don't cross that line with me. So when I was doing player representation, I had an attorney buddy that wanted to do it. It's the worst business on earth, but I represented some players or I helped his friend. I got to meet a lot of old scouts. And this is a great story. I'm standing around. I love this guy. He's long since passed, I'm sure. When I knew him in 2004-ish, about 20 years ago, he was probably 65, maybe a little bit better. He pitched in 55 with the Red Sox. He's 6'6", always had a chew in, always called me Jackie. Beautiful guy. So one day I'm like, hey, like you play with Ted Williams. Oh yeah, Jackie. I play with Ted back in 55. Yeah. He's back from Korea. He'd been a couple years back from Korea. And I said, did he hit till his hands bled? Like he hit like everybody else. He took BP, but he was just better than everybody else.
Yeah,
exactly. He goes, but Jack, I'll tell you a great story. We throw live BP in the first part of spring training. I go, yeah. He goes, sometimes they put a screen out, but you're throwing live. And we had this 21-year-old kid from Texas. It's his first spring training. And he puts the ball right on the corner. James Lance takes it. And the guy goes, hey, the hell was wrong with that pitch? And he goes, we're around the cage like, oh gosh, he didn't do that. He goes, you could see the anger. Now this is 35, 6, 7-year-old Ted Williams. He goes, you could see the anger in his eyes. And he goes, Jack, as I stand here, I swear to you, he went, next pitch, hit it right by his ear. Guy yells out, hey, Mr. Williams will let you know when it's a strike. And he goes, now he's super pissed. And he goes, Jack, as I'm standing here, it was like in the woods. Every swing, he just started driving it deeper and deeper. And then he dropped the bat and left, pissed. And every guy was like, hey, you might not want to piss off Ted anymore. He goes, Jack, I stood there and watched that happen. He was that good. First, he sent the message of a ball up the middle right by the pitcher. And then he got mad and just started lifting home runs. And when he got in the groove, there was nobody better. But he said, yeah, I saw him play every day. So the thing you were saying about the two years he won the Triple Crown, somebody posted on YouTube an argument for something like 8 to 11 MVPs he should have won. And it was because of the press. Brother, I'm telling you, when this guy put this together and he's running the numbers, it's ridiculous. Of the years that he got shafted because he wasn't liked. Now, of course, 41 is famous because DiMaggio hits, 325 or so and has the 56 game hitting streak. But that's the 406 that Ted Williams hits over 400 and doesn't win the MVP. And there's ones that are criminal. And the guy's like, so he's making the argument, as much as you said, given the time frame of World War II, he's out in 43, 44, and 45. Yep. And then Korea. And in the book, they go through the Rolodex of guys that flew in World War II. And they're like, man, we're flying jets now in Korea. And we don't have anybody. At Williams, great eyesight, great reaction. They put him in a jet and send him right back through it. He's not happy about it. But then he flies 2 more years. He was asked at the end of his career, what's the greatest team you ever played for? He goes, the United States Marine Corps.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. You just mentioned the 19, here's the 19, I'm just looking at his stats now, 1949, 43 home runs, 159 RBIs, batted .343, and he was the MVP that year. Wow. Ted Williams, I have a story. When I worked in Miami back in 95, 96, and 97, I worked for a company that did the food at Pro Player where the Dolphins and Marlins played. And Jerry Moses, who played on the Red Sox in the late 60s, early 70s, he lived in the town I lived in, North Andover as well. So I got to know him. He was the president of the company. So he came down to Florida in March. And that's when the Red Sox, I think, were in Winter Haven or starting to go to Fort Myers. So he comes to the stadium this one day, and he goes, you never guessed what I did yesterday. I go, what was that? He goes, I had lunch with Ted Williams. I go, what? I said, you got to let me come with you next time. And he laughed, but that wasn't going to happen. But I said, you had lunch with Ted Williams? I said, that's the best. He was at that time, I think he was the president of the Alumni Association for Major League Baseball players. So he got to know, he knew Nolan Ryan. He knew everybody. But to say he had lunch with Ted Williams, he just said it like it was no big deal. I'd be like going crazy. So that was a cool story.
Join the conversation. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, Williams was a larger-than-life figure. Another thing that I mentioned in a show where we got talking about Ted Williams is because of a friend of mine that I was doing the show with was like, what year did he go in the Hall? I'm saying, I'm pretty sure it was 66. His last season was 1960. Yaz's first season was 61. And, he replaced him in left field or went into that.
66.
Yeah, it was 66. And what I remember about watching something that somebody had posted about that induction, he was the first guy to ever say, and I think this is a beautiful story about Ted Williams. He was the first guy to say, the players from the Negro Leagues who never had the chance to play in the big leagues, in the major leagues, needs to be in the Hall. The first guy to say it. And it was later talked about where he was on race. One guy I saw in an interview that absolutely loved him was Satchel Paige. And then I saw a story about Pumpsie Green was the first black player for the Red Sox in 59, 12 years after Jackie Robinson. And he was Cornell Green's brother that played defensive back for the Dallas Cowboys. So Pumpsie Green, I saw him in an interview. I don't know what point in his life it was, but he was like, yeah, when I go to the Red Sox, I'm like, I'm the only black guy. I wonder how I'm going to be received. And I walk in the clubhouse and this guy goes, hey, you want to go get a catch? And I look up, it's Ted Williams. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Ted Williams, biggest star in baseball, is coming for a catch. Well, the explanation was Ted Williams' mother was Mexican, growing up in San Diego. And he heard snide remarks and things that were racially insensitive or ethnically insensitive. So he was always sensitive to race. And he was always out in front and ahead of that in a way that when you see the black players that broke into baseball, Larry Doby being the first in the American League, all of them spoke fondly of Williams. And I think it says a lot about him. And he had a thing where he was very sensitive to the needs of kids and, the Jimmy Fund. So he's an interesting cat. He's got problems with the fans. He had the incident where he spit at the fans, got a $5,000 fine. He didn't tip his cap on his last home run in 1960. He thought about it, but he didn't do it. And he was an angry person. And on one of the documentaries I saw on him, one of the players, when he cursed, he did it with a level of passion. He goes, nobody could ever curse with Ted Williams. He goes, when he GD'd something, he meant, I want God to damn this. It was passionate. So he was angry about a lot. But when it came to the children, there was an article, and I was trying to remember if I got the facts on this exactly right, but it was an article in Sports Illustrated several years ago that he would go with kids he would see at the ballpark. He'd buy a hot dog. He'd take kids to lunch. And, he always had a sensitive heart for kids. And there was a story in Sports Illustrated, I would say at least 30 years ago, and maybe more. And it was a story of a kid that he did all these things for. And the kid goes on to become a man and married with children, and he dies, I believe, in his 50s. So now Williams is probably in his 70s. And as a player, he had really taken this guy in, and he gives him a nickname. And, it's like Jimmy Scooter Jim, something. He gave him some kind of nickname. Well, the daughter is going through with her new husband. She's in her 20s. She's going through the garage. Her dad's passed, and they're going through. And the new husband goes, holy cow, where did all this come from? And she was like, what? He goes, do you see this memorabilia, the signed stuff? And she goes, yeah, Dad used to know some player. Honey, this is Ted Williams. And she has no idea.
Gosh.
Right. So he said, you need to go see him. So much like the Yaz incident I saw in spring training, Williams wasn't the most friendly, I think, to people calling out his name. So the Sports Illustrated article says she goes there and she's standing there not knowing what's going to happen. He comes rolling up in a golf cart, field to field, to do hitting instruction. And people are like, Mr. Williams, autograph. He's just ignoring. And, she goes, Ted, do you remember Scooter Jimmy or whatever it was? And he snaps and goes, who said that? I did. How do you know that name? It's my father.
Wow.
Everybody parts. Everybody gets it. And he goes, it's like part in the Red Sea. Everybody goes. And he goes, come here, honey. And they walk down to the outfield. And she explains that her father just passed.
Oh, my gosh.
And
he had a heart. He had a heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So he
You
hugs
know,
her and tells her it means a lot to him that she came. But when she says the name, he snapped. Who said that? I did. How do you know that? It's my dad. He just passed away. And, sometimes people are pretty good souls. They recognize it. They said, everybody just like, oop, let's move away. They need to have a moment. And he took her onto the field and just walked with her. And yeah, but she had no idea even until her husband said, the story was until the husband says, do you recognize who your dad was getting autographed? And it's like, hey to Scooter, love you, Ted, and stuff. And she never thought, he never really spoke of it.
really, because I remember in the mid '90s I was living in Fort Lauderdale, and the Orioles had moved into the Yankees stadium there because the Yankees went to Tampa. And I remember the Orioles were getting ready for a game, and Cal Ripken was in the midst of that the streak there, and people were just like, I mean, literally, there were adults like edging out children to get autographs. They had posters and pictures and things, and it was really like upsetting. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, you need to get a life. So I see, like we said, they parted the ways. But I also think Ted Williams in the '99 All-Star game, that if you watch it on YouTube, I know you've seen it.
Beautiful.
That was a tremendous moment.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, going out of the century and him getting that recognition and all the things that aligned. And yeah, I think also that was his final chance to tell Boston he really loved him.
Yeah.
Because he passes in what, 4? 3? Mm-hmm. It's 4 more years, maybe.
2002.
2, so he had 3 more years. Yeah. Yeah, that was a beautiful moment. And, you look in the eyes of McGuire and Tony Gwynn and,
Junior, Griffey Jr. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Those guys, they got it, man. They got it. Like, you could tell they're like, man, this is the guy. This is the guy. They all had to know that. And I think that's lost a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to keep pooping on the next generation or saying the kids are wrong, but I don't think they're really as aware of the history as maybe those guys were. But I do remember reading an article in Sports Illustrated in the mid-'90s. And it was a story about how when Ryne Sandberg came to the Cubs, one of the coaches was like, hey, wait till you meet Mr. Cub. And he goes, what are you talking about? And they're like, Ernie Banks. And he goes, who's that? So even in that time, then the other funny one was Jay Bell. You may have seen the black and white. If any fan watching this, it's great. The best one ever is Mays and Mantle. They did the home run derby in the old Wrigley Field, the Pacific Coast League Wrigley Field in California, which was the first home of the Angels when they were the Los Angeles Angels the first season in '61. So they go out to that stadium. It was 340 and 339 down the lines. Left, right didn't make any difference. And, Mantle and Mays are going at it, and all these guys are out there hitting on these old black and white films. And when you see the Mantle Mays, it's crazy. So the story in Sports Illustrated, not only did it kind of dig on Ryne Sandberg, they said Jay Bell is standing around the batting cage. And one of the coaches is clearly a player from the 50s and 60s. He goes, hey, Jim. He goes, what's up, son? He goes, hey, have you ever seen that home run derby? Oh, yeah, I remember the time. Yeah, I remember the guys on there. He goes, man, there was this dude, right? Okay, there's this dude from the Yankees. And I mean, he's hitting balls 6 miles. His movements are incredible. And he goes, you talking about Mantle? Yeah, that's him. That's the guy. Yeah, and so they were saying that here's Jay Bell saying, oh, yeah, Mantle, that's the guy that I saw. And he goes, dude, young man, you do know Mickey Mantle. And apparently that seeing it on ESPN Classic Sports was like, wow, who the hell was this guy?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I love the nostalgia of baseball. That's why baseball has that, you can romanticize about the old Red Sox teams like Bobby Doerr and, the 70s teams. Tony Conigliaro had his career cut short. It's just great to know that you can, you look back. I still watch that 99 All-Star game, or I'll watch the 04 series against the Yankees and when they won the World Series. I always like to go back and look at it, and I still can't believe it's been over 20.
Well, one of the talks I got into with the guy yesterday, who's a big sports guy, we were having a similar type of discussion. And this is something that I've been fighting for 30 plus years, and I'll try to get your take on it too. I'm coaching college baseball right now, and I'm working with pitchers, and all the kids are chasing velocity and spin rates and, how much their ball moves vertical, lateral, or whatever. And there's mills out there teaching these kids that massive amounts of movement, or the ball that kind of stays up longer, the ball that has ride is better. Well, I can see all that. Like I can see, I've worked with 15 kids that have played in the big leagues, probably 100 kids that have played pro ball. So I've been around it. Like, you see the ones that are special, and you sometimes see it when they're young. I had Verlander on a fall ball team. Now, if you'd have told me at 17, 18 he was going to be what I saw him at 19, I didn't see that coming. That all happened his freshman year at Old Dominion. But, like I said, you kind of see it. So they're getting messages that throw this or you don't play Division I. Throw this velocity. So they don't know how to pitch, really. And the other thing that I think is adversely affecting them, and I mean this, is they're playing for social media. So I was in a summer league. It's a pretty prestigious summer league a couple years ago, and all the guys were pulling up on the phone was, hey, did you see Jimmy pimp the home run? Did you see him show up the pitcher? Basically what they did to celebrate is all they think about. And I was telling a group of kids, I said, I saw a poster in an indoor facility, and it shows Mickey Mantle, clearly Mickey Mantle, kind of head down. You can see clearly he's in the Yankee dress uniform of like the 60s, and his head's down. He's between second and third on his way into third. And the quote says, when I hit a home run, I dropped my head and tried to get around the bases as quickly as possible. The pitcher felt bad, and I didn't want to show him up.
Oh, I never heard that story.
And I'm like, I said, guys, that's Mickey Mantle. You show me a guy better today than Mickey Mantle. He had 536 home runs. You're like, Coach, it's outdated. We'd like to celebrate. I'm like, but you're not Mickey Mantle, guys. If Mantle said, be classy, you might want to hear that, right? In the game was so different. I saw Costas one time with Willie Mays. God rest his soul, just passed away. Maybe the greatest player ever. And Costas is like, Willie, what was it like to go? You can find this on YouTube, I'm sure. It was in that MLB network in the Robinson studio. And he goes, what was it like to be on the field and know you're the best player? And Mays went, no. I never felt that way. Come on, Willie, he goes, no. This is how the ethics of Major League Baseball. If I had a Major League uniform on and you had a Major League uniform, you were a major leaguer. I showed you respect for that. And Constance is like taken aback. We didn't go around thinking we were better than anybody else. I'm like, damn, that's Willie Mays saying that, right? It wasn't that he didn't respect his own abilities. But what he was saying is, if you were in the club, if you crossed the line and you had the big league gear on, you're a major leaguer. And that in itself deserved respect. And I think a lot of that's lost. That's where
it
I'm
is
going.
Lost. It is lost. And when you look back at like Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey Jr., when they hit a home run, they would just circle the bases and they would touch home plate and they go. Now it's everybody wants to show them up. There are times, though, I think in big games, if somebody hits a dramatic home run, I think those times are appropriate. Probably Jose Bautista with the Blue Jays when they played the Rangers. And I think a couple years ago when Soler for the Atlanta hit that home run against the Astros, he knew that he hit that thing out of the ballpark almost, but he threw the bat down. And I think it galvanized the Braves in that game. But there are times you can do that. But to show up just on a mid-season game 52 home run, I agree with you. There should be some respect with.
Well, and we got into the general discussion of football too. I remember seeing, and this is again I'm showing age, but I'll still say I'm right about this. I know Jim Brown's on the Mount Rushmore of pro football. I'm sorry, if you're picking four faces, he's on it. I don't care the time. I was talking to some young kids the other day, and one of them was saying, well, he couldn't play today. I'm like, how big do you think Jim Brown is or was? And he's like, I don't know, like 5'10", 109. I'm like, no, he was 6'2", over 220 pounds. He goes, what? And I'm like, you don't get it, son. If you go, I've met Jim Brown in his elderly years at an autograph show, but I've looked at him like, damn, Jim Brown's a big man.
Yeah.
So I see Jim Brown, who was also the greatest lacrosse player in history.
All-American,
the best ever. And I see him on an interview, and they ask him about, Jim, we go back and look at the film. You didn't spike the ball you handed to the official. And he said, well, he goes, in my day, if you did anything to show off or to show you were a chump, you were, bush leaguer. He said that. He goes, you weren't considered a man. You acted like a man. You gave the ball to the official and act like you were going to be back again. And I'm kind of like, that's Jim Brown saying that, like that might. And now this is football. They intercept the pass. Everybody runs to the end zone. They all pose. And I'm like, man, this is really ridiculous. It looks pretty stupid, especially when you're down 31-0. And you see the defensive end get the strip sack. The ball's on the ground. They're celebrating. The offensive lineman recovers the ball. Baseball, you don't probably have really the same opportunity for the missed opportunity because you're celebrating. But there was a time that type of showing off would get somebody drilled. You get your teammate drilled. It just wasn't well thought of. There were unwritten rules. But I agree. I think the one rule has always been Mazeroski's home run. I think the Pirates were celebrating that pretty well and the fans running on the field. Well, the home run means the game's over.
Yeah, season's over, game's over, series is over.
Yeah, Yankees get the hell off the field. You just lost the series. Right. So that's not Mazeroski. And I mean, he's just running with his helmet in his hand because everybody's attacking him on the field. There are famous walk-off home runs, and I do think it's fair game then. Walk-off home run is fair game. Yeah, do whatever.
Manny Ramirez against the Angels, when he hits the home run and he just puts his hands up at home plate like that, and the guy, I remember the announcer said, Manny Ramirez hits a rocket to left field. I mean, he hit it over the green monster, but there are times, like you said, I mean, you were mentioning football, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith. They would always, even Lawrence Taylor, when he sacked a quarterback, I mean, I don't remember him doing any sack dances. I know Gastineau did, but
yes,
there was a certain respect for the opponent. I may be nostalgic about that, but I think there was a certain respect for the opponents at that time. Barry Sanders would just hand the ball. He'd run 99 yards and he'd hand the ball to the official.
See, that was my favorite thing about Art Monk. Art Monk was one of my favorite players. The fact that it took him the years it did to get to the Hall of Fame is criminal. He left the league the number one receiver. How do you catch more passes than anybody? It takes you 8 years to get in the Hall. But something to me that I want to say about Lawrence Taylor, because right where I'm sitting right now is about 5 minutes from his high school. I'm near Williamsburg, Virginia. He went to Lafayette High School. And I hear a lot of things about him in the locality, and most of it is really great guy. He definitely had his off the field. But I will say this. There's one of those documentary things on Joe Theismann, A Football Life. And they go out to RFK and the grass is all grown up and there's trees growing around. They're getting ready to demolish what's left of the stadium. And he said, you called me after you broke my leg. He goes, yeah, man. And he goes, you're all acting like something bad had happened. And Theismann laughs and said, like, you broke my leg. He goes, yeah, I didn't kill you. So they're laughing about it. And then Taylor gets this look. You can watch it. He gets this look. And he goes, Joe, I never wanted to end your career. I played hard and all that. But I tell you what, brother, I respected you.
Yeah.
I respected you. Because we could punch you in the mouth and you got right back up. And as a guy, I'm sitting there like, damn, Lawrence Taylor and you could tell it meant the world to Theismann. If Lawrence Taylor's saying, but dude, I always respected you. And after that, I heard somebody say, there's one thing you never heard about Lawrence Taylor. Never heard about him. He played dirty. That's true. I never saw him cheap shot anybody. I never saw him late. I never saw him hit anybody out of bounds.
Nope.
What he did was play the game better than anyone's ever played it. I think. Now, my favorite defensive player to my eyesight was Sean Taylor with Washington. I got a helmet made in the same way he wore. But he dies at 24. We'll never know the rest of the history. But my eyes tell me there's Reggie White's in the conversation. But LT at 6'3", 245-ish, whatever, was taking offensive linemen and throwing him into the quarterback. And you saw it. I saw it.
Oh, yeah.
But he never did a dirty thing that I can ever remember. Ever questionable.
No, and you mentioned you're a Redskins Commanders fan. You're a huge fan of the early '80s teams, and throughout your life. But John Riggins, when he scored, he never did it. He just handed the ball to the ref.
Riggins was an interesting cat, but you're right.
He was
bad.
Never
saw him celebrate.
He was a badass.
He was a badass, and that's interesting because somebody has posted all the hits between Riggins and Taylor, and there was a time that that Taylor gets interviewed and he goes, nah, that Riggins, man, that was my guy. That Riggins and I had some, and there's some times that Riggins got the better of him, kind of knocked him backwards or threw a good block on him. not too many people ever really got LT, and so Riggins, but I've seen Riggins live and in person. He's a huge guy.
Whoa.
To be a running back, yeah, he's 6'2 plus and he's a big guy. So when you see him in person, you kind of get it. He was a specimen. He was fast. He broke a bunch of records with Gale Sears at Kansas. He was a fast man in the 100 and in the time events. He could really run. He was a great runner.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One other thing about Taylor that meant the world to me, all these helmets up top are remakes of Sonny Jurgensen helmets. They're the actual Riddell models that he wore. I go to get, and I have it right here, this is my 1969 program cover from the year that Vince Lombardi was the coach. And I got Sonny to sign it. And on the day I was there, I also got him to sign the Jurgensen Lombardi cover. Yeah, Sports Illustrated cover. This is what's, being a Virginia guy, I love the fact LT's from Virginia, but what really touched me as a Redskin fan or a Sonny fan, I'm at this autograph show. Taylor's already down. He's interacting with fans. He's signing. Jurgensen breaks the curtain because he's getting ready to start in 5 minutes. And I see Taylor excuse himself from the group and get up, handshake, pull Sonny in for a hug. And I thought, man, that's class.
Awesome.
His first year is 81. Jurgensen's last year is 74. Jurgensen does radio. I know they know each other. I know that they know each other. But I thought, how classy is that for a guy from his era? And this is about 10 years after Taylor plays, for him to stop everything to go to a guy that is from a different era and go say hi and do what he did.
That says a lot. That says a lot about him.
And I could tell in Jurgensen's eyes, like, ask my guy, LT. Come here, LT. Yeah, it was really cool to see. Yeah, it was cool to see. Yeah, that they had that kind of camaraderie. Again, not having ever played against each other and came from different. Now, one went to Carolina, one went to Duke. One's from Virginia, one's from North Carolina. There's a lot of interconnection regionally and all that, but it said a lot about Taylor. It did.
Going back to the Ted Williams 99 All-Star game, we had talked just looking at Gwynn and Griffey Jr., Piazza, all those guys. I mean, even Nomar got to talk to him as well during that interaction, and McGuire. I mean, just the different eras. I mean, God, 30, 40 years? And just the admiration and just they were all glued to Ted Williams. That just says a lot about the class of those guys at that time. I think when you look back, I don't know if you really see that anymore. You may or may not with Magic, Bird, Jordan, but it's really cool when you see that they admire and for the people who paved the way for them. So it's pretty neat.
I will say I think people are people, and I'll say this. I have a friend of mine that coaches third for the Texas Rangers, Tony Beasley. We grew up together. Tony was the interim manager in 2022. When they fired Woodward, he took over until Bochy came in the next year. And I take Tony's best friend from college to the game. We go to Fenway. And I'm brokenhearted over Xander Bogaerts. In my life, I've seen Strawberry Good. I've seen Josh Hamilton's best I've ever seen. Bogaerts is in the conversation. The guy is crazy physically gifted. But we go up there for Rangers Red Sox, and I'm standing outside with this guy that went to school with Tony, and he's one of the most beautiful human beings I know. He's from North Carolina, born and raised, and Corey Seager breaks the curtain. And he goes, "Hey, there's Corey Seager." And I was like, "Hey, go talk." I said, "Well, you know him?" He goes, "I coached him in Legion ball one summer or something." I said, "Go talk to him." And he was like, "Oh, I don't want to bother him." And I'm like, this guy's name. I was like, "So what?" I'm like, he takes a few steps over and Seager's like, "Coach, how you doing?" And he was like, "Hey, buddy." And then he was like, "Can I get an autographed ball?" He goes, "Hey, somebody give me a ball. Somebody give me a ball." I fell in love with him as a player. Corey Seager's from Kannapolis, North Carolina. I think he went to high school in Charlotte, but he had been coached by this buddy of mine. And my buddy was like, "I don't know." And he was like, "Coach, what you doing here, man? How you doing?" And
wow.
I was like, wow. Yeah, he was a really nice kid and tall. I mean, Corey Seager's very, very tall. Then the next year he has an all-star season, and they win the World Series. But yeah, when you see that, I'm going to be honest. I mean, you see that, it's kind of heartwarming. You're like, hey, he didn't forget his coach from Legion ball or whatever their connection was. But, he was like, well, and I mean, he didn't big league him, just the opposite. And he was like, Corey, can I get an autograph? Yeah. Somebody give me a baseball. And he signs it. And immediately I'm like, he's my favorite player. Now he's my favorite player now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because he treated a guy that he probably hadn't seen in a number of years. But guys are like that. A lot of guys that I've worked with that have gone on to have success, you don't really know where you stand. You see them 10 years later like, hey, coach, always meant the world to me that. Always meant the world that you were there to say whatever. You don't know the impact. And later it's very rewarding to hear that they gave two shits what you said. But
Yeah.
if you're 11, 12, 15 years old and somebody believes in you, I had a kid that was a first rounder in Clemson, and I finally got a chance to meet with him and have dinner when he was 23. I went down to work with him. And I told the father of another kid that I had told the same thing, who kind of went sideways. And the father was, well, you owe him an explanation on why he's not having success because he drank too much and ate too much. But back to the good kid, I'm coaching his travel team. It's when I had Verlander. Coaching his travel team, and their second and third, not the responsibility of this pitcher. And you see a light switch go on, boom, 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 strikeout, gets out of the inning. I'm going to coach third. I'm bypassing. I'm with the White Sox sponsored team. And this guy with the Orioles, who was a guy that was a scout, he looks at me and goes, uh-oh. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty nice, wasn't it? He goes, yeah, I saw the look. So I come in the dugout, and I kind of tapped him on the leg, and I said, hey, keep doing what you're doing. You're going to pitch in pro ball. He's 16. He goes in the 5th round out of high school, 1st round out of college. So now that I'm working with him, he's in pro ball. He's in double A. I come in to work with him. We go out. Now he's all grown up. We go out and get a steak and a beer. We're in the restaurant, and he brings up, he goes, hey, do you remember that time in the dugout you told me I was going to pitch in pro ball? I swear to you. And I went, you remember that? He goes, oh, yeah, I never forgot it because you're the first person to ever say that. And I said, what did you take from that? And he went, I never wanted to let you down.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, the other kid kind of pooped the bed, never did much. And he was having a bad outing in college. And the father said, well, you're the one that told him he was going to pitch in pro ball, which he did, then never lasted. And I'm like, what are you saying? And he goes, well, you told me he was going to pitch in pro ball. I'm like, you want me to talk to him? So I went up to him and I said, what's the matter? He goes, I don't know. I fucking didn't have it today. I said, here's the problem. I'm 45. You're 19. I want to pitch in the big league. I'm in better shape than you are. And because I still want to pitch more than you do. And that kid later admitted all he wanted to do was get drafted so he could tell girls and go in bars and say he was a professional player. And and I loved him to death, but that was a difference. You told two kids they could pitch in pro ball. One processed it by going in the 1st round and saying, I didn't want to let you down. The other kid heard it and, whatever. But that's the thing. They're all human. Kids are going to make mistakes. If you're going to play professionally and play very long, you got to really want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. All right, let me ask you this on our way out. Who is your all-time favorite Red Sox?
I probably have to go with Dwight Evans.
Yeah.
Dwight Evans, just because he just had that aura and persona about him, very quiet, professional, all-star. Had the tools, just very confident player. And I probably have to say probably Ortiz as well as Pedro Martinez, because I think that they really shaped the dynamic of that team that won the World Series in 2004. I think that our shift in not losing to the Yankees was because of those two.
I totally agree. And I tell you, I was talking to a friend the other day about Washington and some of the players like Monty Coleman, Don Warren, who are those kind of guys. If you're a fan of a team, you know who those guys are. And I think to some degree, not that he wasn't known nationally, but Dwight Evans was that guy to us. We knew how great he was, but I don't think he ever got the credit. He played in all-star games and the rest. But what did he play, like 20 years?
Yeah.
And he ended up in Baltimore at the end, which looked weird, and that wasn't right for him to be in an Orioles uniform. But what a gun. Big throwing arm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had the big arm, and he was a graceful athlete and big guy, tall guy, and movie star looking guy.
Yeah.
Playing. Yeah.
I was just about to say he had the movie star look. He has the movie star looks. I mean, he just looked the part. He looked like a professional baseball player, like he belonged. That was Dwight Evans.
When I was there in Boston to see my friend Tony, I remember a big eruption. I'm sitting in Fenway. We were 6 rows back, dead center behind home plate. And there's like this big eruption. I'm like, hey, what was that about? So they just announced that Dewey's in the box up there. And Evans is up there and he's doing and I was like, oh my God, it's Dewey, You're talking about a fan favorite. People love some Dewey.
He's the man. I think he was that guy that really was. He must have been a great clubhouse guy too.
I'm sure.
Just his presence in the clubhouse, maybe, he looked like after '86, they just, I don't know, the Red Sox lost gracefully, and I think Dewey as well. He was the one that caught the pitch from Bill Buckner, before the game. So I think that was also, we had talked about it earlier. I think the fact that he showed up and caught the first pitch by Bill Buckner says a lot about Dwight Evans.
And for fans that maybe don't remember this, in '75, in the famous Game 6, where Carbo comes off the bench and hits the 3-run homer that famously ties the game and leads to Fisk to hit the 12th inning home run, what people often forget is that I think in the 10th, Joe Morgan hits a rocket into right field, and Evans in a dead run jumps at a part of the fence that's like 3 feet high. The ball could have easily been over. He intercepts the ball going out, turns and throws back to the infield, and they double off a runner. I think it was Griffey. And that's a pivotal moment in that game. Because if that ball gets over the glove, it's lights out. Probably lose the game. So that was, he was in that series. He was in '75 and he was in '86. So God bless him. Anything else you'd like to say on the way out? Please give all your information where we can reach you.
Sure. So my name is Rob Fredette. I have a podcast called Hodgepod with Rob Fredette. Jack was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. We talked about the JFK assassination. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Odyssey, iHeart, radio app. And I love to talk about anything music, sports, true crime, historical events, baseball, movies, TV, whatever. I just like nostalgic stuff. I love talking about it. So you can find my podcast on Apple, Spotify, all those podcast platforms.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, subscribe and hit your notification button to get an update when we post another episode. See you soon.